At that time, the world-honored one, wanting to repeat the meaning of what he said, spoke in verse. There were monks and nuns, harboring prideful arrogance, laymen filled with self-conceit, and laywomen empty of faith. Those of the four groups such as these, 5,000 in number, perceived not their own errors, were lax in keeping the precepts, and clung dearly to their flaws. Those of little wisdom have withdrawn, faced with the dignity and virtue of the Buddha, the chaff and dregs of this assembly of God. These people lacking the blessings of virtue could not bear to receive this teaching. This assembly has shed its twigs and leaves, and only the sincere and faithful remain. Shariputra, listen carefully. The Dharma attained by the Buddhas is expounded for the sake of living beings. By employing immeasurable powers of skillful means, what living beings entertain in their minds, the ways in which they behave, their various desires and characters, and the good and bad karma from their previous lifetimes are all completely known by the Buddhas. By using the power of such skillful means, as a variety of words and terms, parables, and examples from the past, the Buddha causes all living beings to rejoice. My preaching also makes use of sutras, verses, stories of my own past lives, and those of my disciples, miraculous tales, examples from the past, parables, lyrics, and dialogues. Some living beings with dull faculties delight in lesser teachings, and are greedily attached to the cycle of birth and death. They do not, even in the midst of innumerable Buddhas, practice the profound and wondrous way, and are afflicted and distressed by a host of sufferings. For their sake I teach nirvana. I set this forth as a skillful means to enable them to take up the Buddha wisdom. Yet, I have never before said, all of you will complete the Buddha way. I did not say it because the time had not yet come. Now is the right time to definitively teach the great vehicle. These 9 divisions of the teachings that I put forth to fit living beings form the basis of bringing them into the great vehicle. That is why I am expounding the sutra. For the sake of Buddha children, whose minds are pure, whose faculties are keen, and who, in the presence of innumerable Buddhas, have walked the profound and wondrous way, I teach this great vehicle sutra. Such people as these have my assurance that, in a future lifetime, they will complete the Buddha way, because they are deeply mindful of the Buddha, and because they observe the pure precepts. When such people as these hear that they will become Buddhas, great joy permeates their entire being, because the Buddha knows their minds and behaviors. He teaches the great vehicle for their sake. If Shravakas or Bodhisattvas hear any teaching that I expound, be it even only one verse, all are certain to become Buddhas. In Buddha lands throughout the 10 directions, there is nothing other than the one vehicle. There is neither a second nor a third, except those provisionally called so by the Buddha, and used as skillful means for the sake of guiding living beings. The sole reason that Buddhas appear in the world is to reveal the Buddha wisdom, and therefore only the one is real, and the other two are not true. In the end, by a lesser vehicle, they do not convey living beings to liberation. The Buddha himself abides in the great vehicle. There, the Dharma he has attained is adorned with the powers of meditation and wisdom that he employs to liberate living beings, as I myself have verified the unsurpassable way, the great vehicle Dharma of equality. Were I to transform even but one person by a lesser vehicle, that would be stingy and mean of me, something I could never be. If people have faith in and take refuge in the Buddha, the Tathagata will not deceive them, or is never motivated by greed or envy, having freed himself from the evil within phenomena. Therefore, only the Buddha has nothing to fear in all the 10 directions. I adorn myself with splendid attributes and illuminate the entire world. I tell countless beings who revere me about the seal of the ultimate reality of all things. You should know, Shariputra, that from the beginning I made a vow, desiring all living beings to be my equals, with no distinctions between us. Now what I vowed so long ago has been perfectly fulfilled, for I am transforming all living beings and enabling them all to embark upon the Buddha way. No matter which living beings I encounter, I use the Buddha way to teach them all. However, the unwise are bewildered and unruly, and would only be confused by the teaching and unable to receive it. I know that these living beings have never developed their roots of goodness. Firmly attached to the fire of desires, they suffer from their lusts and cravings. By the causes and conditions of these desires, they fall into the 3 evil paths, transmigrating in the 6 realms of existence, where, with every tiny form conceived in a womb, they experience all kinds of misery and pain that are constantly growing in lifetime after lifetime. These people of meager virtue and few blessings are oppressed and driven by a host of sufferings. Entangled in a thicket of distorted views about existence and non-existence and so forth, and fixated upon as many as 62 such views, they tightly cling to these hollow and false doctrines, deeply accept them, and are unable to abandon them. They are arrogant and self-important, and become fawning, deceitful, and insincere. During thousands of millions of kalpas, they have not heard the word Buddha, nor have they heard this true Dharma. People such as these are difficult to liberate. Therefore, Shariputra, for their sake, I devise skillful means, teaching them about nirvana and showing it to them as the way to end their sufferings. However, even though I speak of this as nirvana, it is not true extinguishment, for inherently all things themselves are always and attributes of tranquil extinguishment. When these children of the Buddha have completed the way, they become Buddhas in a future lifetime. By the powers of my skillful means, I reveal to them the teaching of the three vehicles. All the world-honored ones, likewise, expand the one vehicle way. All of you here in this great assembly should now rid yourselves of doubts and confusion, for there is no discrepancy between any of the words of the Buddhas, as they are all the one vehicle, and no second exists. In the immeasurable kalpas of the past were innumerable extinguished Buddhas, hundreds of thousands of millions of kinds of them, their number beyond calculation. All such world-honored ones as these have also used various examples from the past, parables, and innumerable powers of skillful means to expound the attributes of all things. All of these world-honored ones were teaching the one vehicle Dharma, transforming numberless living beings and enabling them to embark upon the Buddha way. Moreover, these great sacred leaders, knowing the desires deep in the hearts of heavenly beings, humans, and a multitude of other life forms throughout all worlds, also made use of quite different skillful means to assist in revealing this foremost teaching. For example, some living beings encountered the Buddhas of the past, heard the Dharma, and cultivated various merits and virtues, including generosity, precept-keeping, forbearance, diligence, meditation, and wisdom. Such people as these have all completed the Buddha way. After the Buddhas passed away, some people were good and flexible in mind. Such living beings as these have all completed the Buddha way. After the Buddhas passed away, some people paid homage to the Buddha's relics. Some constructed thousands of millions of types of stupas and completely decorated them with fine adornments of gold, silver, crystal, mother of pearl, agate, carnelian, and lapis lazuli. Some built memorials of stone, sandalwood, aloes, eaglewood, other kinds of timber, brick, tile, or clay. Some people in open fields raised a clump of earth as a Buddha's memorial. Some children at play piled sand in the form of a Buddha stupa. Such people as these have all completed the Buddha way. Some people, for the sake of Buddhas, made statues, carved in various shapes. They have all completed the Buddha way. Some made and adorned Buddha images using the precious seven: brass, red bronze, white wax, lead, tin, iron, wood, clay, glue, cloth, and lacquer. Such people as these have all completed the Buddha way. Some people painted Buddha's images, adorned with hundreds of splendid features, which they did so themselves, or had others do so. They have all completed the Buddha way. Some children, playing with grass, sticks, brushes, or even their fingernails, happen to draw Buddha's images. All such people as these, gradually accumulating merits and bringing to perfection the mind and great compassion, have all completed the Buddha way. As all they transformed were bodhisattvas, they liberated countless beings. Some people reverently made offerings of flowers, incense, banners, or canopies to these stupas Monuments, jeweled statues, sculptures, or painted images. Some had others make music by beating drums and blowing horns and conch shells, or playing pipes, flutes, mandolins, harps, lutes, gongs, and cymbals, performing all of these wondrous sounds as offerings. Some joyfully sang songs extolling the virtues of the Buddhas, even if they made but a single small sound. All of them have completed the Buddha way. Some people, while distracted, offered as little as a single flower to a painted image. They gradually came to see countless Buddhas. Some prostrated themselves, placed their palms together, raised a single hand, or merely nodded in paying homage to a Buddha's image. They eventually saw innumerable Buddhas, accomplished the unsurpassable way, extensively liberated countless beings, and entered parinirvana, like the flame perishing when the kindling is consumed. Some people, while distracted, went to a stupa or monument, and only once uttered Namo Buddha. All of them have completed the Buddha way. All who heard this Dharma from Buddhas of the past, while they were in the world or after passing away, have completed the Buddha way. All future world-honored ones, of number immeasurable, all of these Tathagatas also use skillful means to teach the Dharma. All of these Tathagatas liberate living beings by immeasurable, skillful means and allow them entry into the Buddha's undefiled wisdom. Of those who hear the Dharma, none will fail to become a Buddha. From the remotest past, the vow of all Buddhas is to enable all living beings to attain this very same Buddha way that they themselves practice. Although Buddhas in future ages proclaim hundreds of thousands of millions of countless approaches to the Dharma, in reality, they are but the one vehicle. The Buddhas, the most honored of all beings, know that since all things are ever without fixed nature, the seeds of Buddhahood sprout from proper conditions. Therefore, they expound the one vehicle. This teaching dwells in its inherent Dharma position, and thus all worldly attributes eternally abide. Having come to know this teaching, in the place of the way, these guides use skillful means to expound it, receiving offerings from heavenly beings and humans. The Buddhas of the present, throughout the 10 directions, are as numerous as the sands of the Ganges. They appear in the world in order to bring peace and comfort to living beings, and also to expound this Dharma, since they know the foremost tranquil extinguishment and employ their powers as skillful means to manifest various ways. In reality, those ways are but the Buddha vehicle. These Buddhas know the deeds of living beings, what they entertain in the depths of their minds, the karmas they have habitually accumulated from the past, their desires, characters, and the strength of their diligence, as well as whether their faculties are keen or dull. Therefore, these Buddhas, employing a variety of words and terms, parables, and examples from the past, accordingly and appropriately teach them with skillful means. Now I, too, am like these Buddhas. In order to bring peace and comfort to living beings, I use various approaches to the Dharma to make known the Buddha way. I use the capacity of my wisdom to know the natures and desires of living beings and skillfully explain for them various teachings, causing all to experience great joy. You should know, Shariputra, that I, observing with the Buddha eye, see the living beings in the 6 realms of existence, impoverished and lacking in blessings, in the perilous path of birth and death. Their suffering continues with no respite. Firmly attached to the 5 desires, like the yak obsessed with its own tail, wrapping themselves in greedy obsessions, they are blinded and see nothing. They seek neither the Buddha, the one with great power, nor the Dharma, which brings an end to suffering. Being deeply entrenched in distorted views, their attempts to end suffering create more suffering. On behalf of these living beings, my heart is moved by great compassion. When I first sat at the place of the way, contemplated the tree, and practiced walking meditation, for a period of 3 times 7 days, I pondered the following matter. The wisdom that I have attained is supremely subtle and wondrous, but living beings are dull in their faculties, clinging to pleasure, and blinded by ignorance. So how can I liberate beings such as these? Then all the Brahma kings, Shakra, the king of heavenly beings, the 4 heavenly kings who guard the world, as well as Maheshvara, and all the other heavenly beings, with their hundreds of thousands of myriads of followers, paid homage to me with palms placed together, and entreated me to roll the wheel of the Dharma. I thereupon thought to myself, if I extol only the Buddha vehicle, living beings sunk in the depths of suffering will be incapable of believing this Dharma, and abusing the Dharma through their disbelief will fall into the 3 evil paths. So I would rather not teach them the Dharma, and instead quickly enter nirvana. I then recalled how the Buddhas of the past exercised their power of skillful means, and knew that the way now attained by me must be similarly taught as 3 vehicles. When I had this thought, all the Buddhas from the 10 directions appeared, and with their Brahma voices encouraged me. Excellent Shakyamuni, foremost leader and teacher, you have attained this unsurpassed Dharma, and will be following the example of all Buddhas by employing the power of skillful means, for we too have all attained this most wondrous Dharma. But because of the many types of living beings, we made distinctions within it. It taught them 3 vehicles. Those of little wisdom delight in lesser teachings, unable to believe that they themselves will become Buddhas. We therefore employed skillful means in making distinctions, told of the attainment of various fruits. Even though we expounded 3 vehicles, we did so only to teach bodhisattvas. You should know, Shariputra, that when I heard the profoundly clear and wondrous voices of the lion sages, I cried out with joy, Namo Buddhas. I further reflected that, having come into this sullied and evil age, I will also follow the examples recounted by the Buddhas. Having finished pondering the matter, I immediately set out for Varanasi, as all things are attributes of tranquil extinguishment, which cannot be explained with words. I employed my power of skillful means to teach the Dharma to the 5 ascetics. This was called rolling the wheel of the Dharma, and thus the term nirvana came into being, along with the distinct names Arhat, Dharma, and Sangha. From these distant kalpas in the past, I have extolled and presented the teaching of nirvana, by which the sufferings of birth and death are forever brought to an end. This is how I have always taught. You should know, Shariputra, that when I looked upon these Buddha children, I saw countless thousands of millions who were determined to seek the Buddha way. All with reverent hearts were coming into the presence of the Buddha, having already followed the Buddhas and heard the Dharma expounded through skillful means. Then I reflected that the reason that Tathagatas appear is to expound the wisdom, and now is the very time to do so. You should know, Shariputra, that people of dull faculties and little wisdom, the arrogant and those obsessed with appearances, cannot believe this Dharma. But now, in the midst of bodhisattvas, gladly and without apprehension do I truly let go of skillful means, to speak solely of the unsurpassable way. Bodhisattvas who hear this Dharma completely sweep away the web of doubts, and you 1,200 Arhats will all become Buddhas. Just as the Buddhas of the past, present, and future teach the Dharma, I will now in the same manner expound an undivided Dharma. The Buddhas appear in the world only at long intervals. So difficult are they to encounter. Even when they do appear in the world, they rarely teach this Dharma. Throughout infinite countless kalpas, rarely can this Dharma be heard. And those people capable of listening to this Dharma are rarer still. This, like the Udumbara flower, enjoyed and loved by all, seldom seen by heavenly beings and humans, and appearing but once in a long while. So those who hear this Dharma rejoice in it and extol it with even a single word have already paid homage to all Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Rare are such people as these, more so than the Udumbara flower. All of you, cast out doubts, for I am master of all teachings. I announce to everyone in the great assembly that all I do is teach and transform bodhisattvas using the one vehicle way. So none of my disciples are Shravakas. Shariputra, all of you, Shravakas and bodhisattvas, should know that this wondrous Dharma is the innermost essence of all Buddhas. In the evil age of the 5 decays, there are those who delight only in being attached to various desires, and therefore such living beings never seek the Buddha way. When debased people in future ages hear the one vehicle expounded by the Buddha, they will be confused by it, neither believe nor accept it, abuse the Dharma, and fall into evil paths. But there will be some who have a sense of shame and are pure-hearted. They will be determined to seek the Buddha way, so for their sake, the one vehicle way must be widely extolled. You should know, Shariputra, that the Dharma of all Buddhas is like this. Employing thousands of millions of skillful means, they teach the Dharma in whatever manner is appropriate. Without sufficient study, it cannot be fully comprehended, since you and the others already know that the Buddhas, the teachers of the world, make appropriate use of skillful means. You should have no further doubt. Rejoice heartily and know that you, too, will become Buddhas.